Welcome to On the Consequences of Hate Speech 4, a virtual art exhibit that focuses on the negative consequences of hate speech in our culture. I'm Shelley Werner and the host of this snapshot video when we speak to Andi Arnovitz and hear about her works as they appear in the exhibit. What drew you to the show on the consequences of hate speech?
I think that for most of us that read the newspaper and are aware of current political events, we're aware that there is a rising tide of anti-Semitism. And things that, 10, 12 years ago would have been completely unacceptable in terms of civil dialogue have suddenly become okay. And the piece really was a reaction to that, was starting to feel personally that that the forces of anti-Semitism and hate speech, and it isn't even just Jews. I mean, I think in general, the things that are being said about other people today in the political arena on social media are way, way out of bounds. In general, with everything I do, there's kind of a modus operandi of educating the viewer, sort of seducing them visually, pulling them in, and then confronting them with some kind of an issue or a problem that they never thought about that way or didn't know about, and kind of searing it into their consciousness. Things are moving in a direction that feels very unsafe to me, and I wanted to do a piece about that.
What are you making a comment on here with the innocence of childhood and the idea of being hurt?
Taking that innocence and that childhood rhyme and juxtaposing it with these hideous names that are so offensive was an artistic statement that I thought worked and worked hard.
I think it does make a very strong statement, particularly in the literal use of sticks. What were you thinking when you made that choice?
If I had just printed, let's say I'd silkscreened those names on a piece of paper, I think there would have been like momentary shock value, but then, okay, so what? There would be this interest in like, what is that thing made of? Are those sticks and stones? And then in discovering and reading, the whole thing would come together as a concept.
Are you saying something here that this is in fact a complex message?
I deliberately used a very coarse thread and kind of unfinished. Like I wanted there to be a little bit of a coarseness. That's why it's on canvas and not velvet or linen or something like that, because this is very coarse language. So I needed it to be kind of gritty.
What were you thinking when you approached this type of font? Because it's very childlike.
It just reinforces the concept. I mean, there is something very Stone Age about sticks and stones, like Neanderthal. It's like the most primitive tools that we have, but we're talking about a very primitive level of humanity here that engages in hate speech.
In the acid series, are all 8 of these images unified, or are these 8 separate images?
They are unified in that every one of these is a victim of acid violence. And some of them are highly recognizable, like Sergei Feinlin, who was the director of the Bolshoi Ballet. That's one that has the big words jealous behind his head. One of the dancers was jealous of the part he gave another dancer, and they hired someone to throw acid on his face, and he was nearly blinded. Another one of these portraits is a Miss Universe contestant in Colombia, South America. And a very jealous co-contestant hired someone on a motor scooter to drive by her competitor and destroy her life, basically. I mean, ruined her life physically, mentally for the rest of her life. But, and some of them are symbols for populations at risk in which this occurs. I mean, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in India, this happens all the time. I mean, there's almost acid violence that occurs every day.
There's a similarity between these pieces that have text in it and the piece entitled Names Do Hurt, because you're using text. What were you thinking when you made the decision to put text in behind the images?
The words made the images even more violent. To see this beautiful woman that's disfigured by something thrown on her face, with the words behind it, if you won't marry me, you won't marry anyone, I think pumps it up. Oh my God, this same material that artists use to create beauty, so to speak, is being used to destroy people's lives. And that's sort of what got me going, which is, well, what if I spent 6 months doing these beautiful portraits of people, and then by, spraying acid on the plates, I destroyed my own work in a matter of seconds. And then I printed that as a form of protest and awareness of this terrible form of violence. And that's exactly what I did.
Can you comment on the style that you've chosen with these words? Because again, they look primitive, like we saw in the other work.
It was important to me that nothing about these was beautiful, but that, these were horrible words that I was writing, horror and, those kinds of things. They're violent, hurtful words. So they couldn't be beautiful. And I also, even the technical process, scratching those words into the plate was also violent. What I continually hope happens is that, first of all, there's something so unsettling about seeing these very big portraits of people looking right at you with something all over their faces that does not look nice. I want to pull the viewer in, like, what is going on with these portraits? And then you read the words and you start to connect the dots, like, oh, this is not nice. There's something nasty going on here. There's something violent going on here. There's something, derogatory going on here.
You succeeded in what you set out to do. You did create beauty, and in a way you did destroy it. And in so doing, created pieces that were absolutely appropriate for a show entitled On the Consequences of Hate Speech.